Hello and welcome to another of the 8 Decisions Tribe calls. Hopefully if you've been watching, you will notice some slow development. We're beginning to engage more with the group. We're beginning to bring more and more knowledge to you as far as not just tribe learning, but anything that Robert and I are also experimenting with. Those could be protocols to keep our mind and body in the right state. It could be, as in this instance, a particular yogurt that will help to turn on more of your oxytocin, the love chemical. The subject of love comes up in this call, in fact, as well, and how if you can go about your life with a loving intention, then of course good things start to happen to you, people start to gravitate towards you, etc., etc. The tribe learning section of this call is all about optimizing your morning routine. Absolutely crucial. If you can get this bit right, you are totally set up for the rest of the day. And we also talk more about the decision experience, the name of our event in December in Nashville. We hope some of you can join us. It is certainly going to be a high vibe event. By the end of the day, you are going to be on such a high. Who knows what will happen, but certainly you will have made a decision. That decision would have manifested during some breath work and some vision exercises. What we hope too is that you will get an opportunity to obviously network with other visionaries, other leaders, other driven folk, all wanting the same thing, to discover their purpose, to discover their potential, whether they can get something more out of this life, whether they can finally feel fulfilled. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy this week's call. See you on the other side.
I'm going to say a few words and maybe elicit some ideas, some discussion. I do a thing with this call where I do share live on my live stream on my channel and our YouTube channel. But what I wanted to do is open up a dialogue, a conversation that we could have here more privately. This is not going to be shared, but I think it's an important conversation to have. And I just wanted to share a personal experience. I wanted to tell a story. I wanted to share what's happening for me, and maybe it is something that speaks to you. Maybe it's something that elicits some new thoughts, maybe a new idea that you may have about the way you go about your day, maybe a way you go about your whole life. And that is something that we continue to talk about on this channel. And that is eliciting the feeling of love, being in love. What does it mean to be in love? You don't have to have someone to be in love to be in love. You can be in love. And this being in love is a state of consciousness that we have the ability to create for ourselves. That seems to take some practice. From what I am experiencing as I have been doing the daily walking meditation, as I've been in my own meditative practice, feeling a sensation of love, using a past emotion to elicit that feeling. But something's happened. Something has happened that I don't think it's a coincidence. I don't think it's an accident. It has definitely happened with intention. And by me living in that state, I've had a new connection with my wife that married, 18 years now. Gosh, it seems like a forever. And we are connecting at a such deeper level of connection in love than we ever have in the past. And I don't know if it's correlated to the practice work that I have. You know, my ego is telling me it is, but maybe there's another factor. And we just connect more deeply together. And that has been going on since literally, around the first of the month. We had this amazing date where we did some breath work together. We really just connected deeply together. And by the way, when you breathe with someone you care about, someone you love, there's a deep connection that tends to happen. When you do that with a team, with a leadership team, you start to collaborate in a different level than you've never collaborated before. And part of this reason that we do the breath work before the call is to set the stage, set some intention for what we are about to do. We're going to learn something on this call. Dave's a great teacher here, teaching us some new ways to optimize our energy. But when you do it with someone you're close to and you're doing breath work, there's a connection that exists, and it's quite magical. And I'm just going to fast forward my story. We've really spent some deep connection time, me and my wife, that is, for the last month. And this weekend, we were with some other people. And it was an evening of just connection, singing and song. And people witnessed my love for my wife. And so many people commented on how we were together and how that inspired them. And I had several people tell us that it kind of gave them hope of what is possible with their relationship. And it felt really good. I felt so much love out of that. And, I told the story to the group that something that is happening to me because I am trying to elicit this feeling of love and trying to carry this around like a practice, it is as important to me as me getting a good night's rest. It's as important to me as doing my exercise. It's just, I'm feeling like this is I know it's like one more thing to do, but it's the most important thing to do because it's the invisible energy that we can use in our day that magnetizes us with other people. And when you feel love, here's the magic behind that, the feeling of love. I continue to have this event happen to me when I'm going out into public. And this happened to me just on Saturday morning. I go to Home Depot and out walks this father. And I knew he was a father because he had two little ones following. One looked like, I would say 7, the other one about 5, following him. And they just had this giddy face. Now he's walking out with nothing. So he had a trip to Home Depot. He had a grin on his face. He's leaving Home Depot with no bags. In my mind, the story I'm telling myself is he went to Home Depot unsuccessfully, but successfully because the kids had fun going to Home Depot. And I just felt his love, and I felt their love out of that just simple sight, just seeing it. Fast forward later that morning, I take my dog on a walk, and there's a father with this little girl riding this little bike, and she's learning how to ride her bike. And I saw love there. And it was just so powerful. And how powerful could it be if you were in love? What could you achieve if you were in love? And it's my feeling, my belief that our vision for our future is possible with love. That is the power source that gets us what we want. And carrying that with us is like really powerful. And I just wanted to share that personal story.
So first of all, that was a beautiful story, and that really resonates with me. I met with somebody in Costa Rica. Robert knows this. Beautiful guy called Jesse. And he is just somebody that instantly I felt very connected to, and it's not something that's ever happened to me like that before. Not to the degree that it did. And I had to say something, and this is not something I normally say. especially as a Brit. And I said to him, Jesse, I don't know what it is, but I feel deeply connected to you. And I've never said that to anybody before upon meeting them for the first time within the first 5 minutes of meeting them. And he said, Dave, I'm just reflecting the light back at you. And that really spoke to me. And in a way, that's kind of what you experience there, isn't it, Robert? You're going through this loving experience that expands. As we feel happier, as we feel more love, ultimately, this energy is created. And it's, we don't even have to consider this from a woo-woo perspective. This energy is real. We are electromagnetic humans. Whenever we feel a positive emotion inside us, there is a change in our energetic field that is all around us. Equally, when we feel negative, the same happens. When you walk into a room and somebody's had a really big argument in that room, they're no longer there, you can still feel sometimes that energy. So I really love that story. Just another quick aside, I'm experimenting with making my own yogurt. I've been reading the book, the Supergut book by Dr. William Davis. And in that, there is a particular strain of yogurt that is in which you purchase a particular bacterial strain called L. reuteri. That's Lactobacillus reuteri. It's a strain that most people don't have these days because of the nature of the world that we've created, the processed foods, the destruction of our wheat crops to, as genetically modified terrible things that we're eating. And when you add, interestingly, this L. reuteri to yogurt, you ferment it yourself, what happens is you get an increase in your oxytocin levels. So your base level oxytocin goes up. To remind you, oxytocin is the love chemical. So I find that really interesting. If everybody ate this particular yogurt, would they start to feel more love for others? Maybe this is something we need to tell the world.
Wow.
Eat this yogurt. So anyway, I'll be experimenting with it. Any results that I get, I will pass on, obviously.
And as a reminder, while you share, if you could share the presentation, I just want to say this one little thing that is I believe is really fundamental to why we are doing the 8 decisions. It's very difficult to feel this love sensation if you are at a low vibrational energy in general. Like your energy is just bad. You're not sleeping well. You're not eating good, healthy food. You're not getting enough exercise. You're really fighting a losing battle to actually feel that in its completeness when you are in a state of just a low vibration generally. And you got all these stressors, and you're not optimizing your total energy. And that's what we talk about. And this is what this 8 decisions is all about. For us, the 8 decisions is what we're calling a personal operating system, a new way to go about with a group of people to collaborate together, share what your vision is, become that vision, and then do it together. And that's essentially why we're calling it See It, Be It Together.
Also, a couple of things. These tribe learnings, of which today's is all about hacking your morning routine, so a really important one. These are a snapshot to what you would get if you were to join the program. The program goes deep. Now imagine you're getting these little snippets of information from us every week in these live calls. But how much of that really sinks in? How much of that do you really act on? Probably not much. And understandably, because, at the end of this call, you go about your day, other thing gets in the way, the commitments of the day get in. Maybe you remember 1 or 2 things. The purpose of the program is for us to guide you. Remember, Robert and I are going on a journey. We want you to come with us. We don't have it all figured out. We're not gurus. We simply know what we want. We have our picture of our vision that we're working towards. And we believe this journey that we've created is how we're going to get there. So this is why you might want to join us. Now, the program will be either as a group subscription model or a one-on-one coaching model. It's up to you which one you go for. We'll also put loads of stuff out there, open source. so you can follow it at your own leisure if you want to. But the key to this will be in you joining a tribe of others that have your back. In the same way if you went to AA, in the same way if you went to any other kind of group where you're being held accountable. We will be working together, holding each other accountable, making sure we do the work. Remember, this is only for the disciplined. It's only for the committed. It's only for the people that genuinely want to change their lives. And you can start that by sorting out your morning routine, just like last week's bedtime routine. So important. So why do you want to hack it? First of all, it's going to lift your mood in the day. You know, I don't know how you wake up, many of you, but I would imagine a lot of you, maybe you have a coffee machine in your bedroom. Maybe you have your phone in your bedroom. Well done, Robert, for committing to that practice, not having a phone in the bedroom. It makes a big difference. It really does. But I would guess there's probably quite a few of you that are doing habits that are not serving you in the morning. So it will lift your mood by getting it right. It's going to activate neurochemicals, positive neurochemicals. It's going to move the oxygen and blood around your body, get your body waking up. It will activate muscle groups. It will also, and I'll remind you about this, circadian rhythm. As a reminder, what do we mean by this? This is your internal clock in our brain. It's a 24-hour internal clock. It is regulated by the response to light changes in our environment. So physiological and behavioral influences are impacted by the Earth's rotation around the axis, or around its axis. So you get the circadian rhythm dialed in, you're going to have better sleep, you're going to wake with lots of energy. Step 1. This is what we recommend as your morning routine. You can't get any better than this. You wake. Rather than laying there, mulling through thoughts, I want you to sit up straight away. So you wake, straight away you're sitting at the side of your bed, feet on the floor, back straight. And what you do, and this takes practice, and I want you to give this a go, is you allow any thoughts to materialize in your brain. Some of them are not going to be good. But the trick here is that you don't analyze them. You just simply allow them to appear. And if you don't analyze or judge those thoughts, they disappear. Because when you analyze and judge thoughts, that's adding fuel to the fire. That's basically telling the brain that you want to start doing a deep dive on this negative assumption about something that might happen in the future. So the brain goes, okay, great. Let's do a deep dive. Let's try and figure out why that person might not like you anymore. Let's try and figure out why that meeting ahead later on today isn't going to go well. Let's do a real deep dive from that negative perspective. So you wake, sit up straight, back straight, and you just simply allow thoughts to enter your mind, but you deliberately and consciously do not analyze them. It's almost saying as if you're having this inner dialogue and you're saying, oh yeah, there's that thought, but that is it. You're just acknowledging that the thought is there. The brain then gets frustrated and it goes, okay, it sort of says, okay, fine. You don't want to think about it. Then let's move on to the next one. So you do that, say, for about 5 minutes. Then some of you that came to the Nashville workshop will have experienced this. This is called priming. It's used by the likes of Tony Robbins and various other influencers out there. It is a great way to set you up in the day. So imagine you're sat on the bed. You close your eyes. You take a deep breath in and then a slow exhale. You tune into the body and you ask yourself, how do I feel mentally and physically? And you score how you feel from 1 to 10. So let's say you're waking up and you're not feeling it great. You're feeling maybe a 5 on that level, on that scoring. So what you do is you then accept that and you think, okay, I'm 5, but let's see if I can do something about it. So you challenge yourself. And in doing that, you close your eyes and you imagine that you've got a dial on your chest. And right now that dial is pointing to 5. So what you say to yourself is, okay, I'm going to dial that up 1. I'm going to level it up, just moving it to 6. And then you sit there for a moment and you imagine what that would feel like if you were 1 up on that dial. You've moved it up to 6. So you start to feel it. You see it, you be it. Just that 1, it's just 1 up the dial. We're not asking much. You're not asking much of your body. You're just imagining, okay, I feel pretty groggy right now, but how would it feel if I did feel just that little bit better? You do that for a couple of minutes and then you challenge yourself again. You say, okay, right, now it's time to level it up. Let's move it up to 7. And when you do that, you then start to think about how it feels, but also the impact you moving that dial up would have on others. You start to imagine, how am I going to impact those around me? How will my wife see me? How will my husband see me? How will my children see me? How will my colleagues see me? My boss, etc., etc. Just by simply doing that, and you feel into it, you're imagining how it would feel. Then, a couple more minutes later, you repeat it one more time and do exactly the same thing. Feel it, see it, be it. You've then moved from a 5 up to an 8. You open your eyes and you are primed. You've then psychologically and emotionally changed how you have woken up to how you intend to be in the day. It works. It's amazing. The more you do it every day, the more it works, the more practice you're going to get. It's just such a brilliant way of starting the day. Next, you start doing some movement. So this is where you start to move the oxygen and the blood around the body. And lots of ways to do that. I prefer the 5 Tibetan rites. Those that were at the Nashville workshop got a little demo from me. That was tough because my belly was hurting. But it was a great practice to do. There's lots of examples on the internet. In fact, let's make sure that there will be one on our YouTube channel. I'll make sure that there is. It's a series of 5 moves. You just flow from one to the other. Most people can do it. It's really simple. You breathe through it. Of course, if you're a yoga or a yogi rather, then do some yoga. Maybe you like qigong. Great. Just do something gentle, nothing taxing on the body at this point. Then breath work. And you've got a whole variety of different practices here. It could be the Wim Hof method. It could be Soma breath. It could be Kapalabhati. It could be Tumo. Some of those might be new to you. Bear in mind, they're on the channel, on our YouTube channel. What I would say at this point, though, is this. Remember, and not many people tell you this, least of all those at the Wim Hof method. If you just did the Wim Hof method every day, you could have a negative response in the body because this is a stressor. It creates a stress on the body. Now, we know through the studies of hormesis, the hormetic effect, that's when you add a stress, both environmentally or toxically or physically to the body. Generally, it's a good thing. But because you're hyperventilating, let's say you wake up and yesterday was full of stress. You're waking up, you're feeling really stressed. I would say don't do the Wim Hof method. You're going to feel good straight away, but then later on the day you might feel worse because you've caused this stress on the body. Nobody really tells you this. I recommend if you are building breathwork into your day, start to learn a variety of practices. At least of all, do the physiological sigh throughout the day. That's the double inhale and then slow exhale. Do that, repeat that 3 or 4 times. That's going to be a nice calming parasympathetic experience on the body. So do please bear that in mind. There's loads to learn with breath work, and quite often it's not worth it just learning from YouTube. It is worth getting into some classes, learning from the masters, and developing your practice. It will pay dividends. Now, then this is an and or. So you could now go and do a cold shower or an ice bath. It's going to bring you huge rewards. Remember, when you step into the cold, you get that rise in dopamine 15 minutes later that lasts 3 or 4 hours. It's amazing, puts you in a good, focused, energetic state. So you could do that. Or you could get outside. Both are just as important. Both are good. When you get outside, you're exposing your eyes to the light. This triggers your circadian rhythm, especially, excuse me, as we enter the winter time, we're not seeing as much light, certainly in this country. Maybe you are in Nashville. So this would be a great thing to do. And then I would recommend actually at this point, do 5 or 10 minutes of HIIT, high intensity exercise. Really then start to get the blood moving around the body. Outside, if you're grounded, in other words, if you're touching the earth, all the better. That will be an incredible experience. You can then come back inside and do your cold shower. Now, last thing to mention after that, if you're having breakfast, of course, some days it's worth extending that window of time when you're not eating. At this point, you could have coffee, but there is a lot of evidence now to suggest that you want to leave it upon waking at least 120 minutes, perhaps, upon waking until you have your caffeine. If you have it straight away, it's not good. Remember, the body knows how to wake you up. You don't need caffeine. It turns on cortisol. That's what the body's meant to do. So if you have caffeine straight away, that's further playing with your cortisol levels. You want to wait till those cortisol levels have peaked, then have caffeine, and then you can extend that feeling. Remember, caffeine produces adrenaline as well as cortisol. And that is it. You go about your day. And one of the things that we will talk about at some point, and again in the program, this is where we deep dive, are a whole lot of practices that you can do in the day. These won't impact your working day. These are short, sometimes 1-minute practices. And what they do is they help to keep you in a level, energetic field. And it means that you can go through the whole day without yawning. There we are. That is it. So thank you for that. Again, this is just a snapshot as to what you could start to learn and experience and practice when doing the program that starts next year.
Let me ask you a question, Dave. The people that you've worked with in the past, have you noticed a correlation between someone that is suffering and the connection between their morning routine?
Yeah, I have. A really good example is a guy, CEO, that had to give up work, and he was suffering depression. And that depression, he began to sink deep into this depression. When he contacted me, he obviously had the presence of mind, a rational thought that he needed to do something about it. And that's what happens, in depression. We get these little windows of opportunity when the brain says, actually, Dave, you need to get off your ass. You need to do something about this. So at that point, good on him. He contacted me. But he couldn't get out of bed. He was that bad, and this is what we call dorsal vagal shutdown in many respects. And that's where the body goes into a hibernation mode. The body is sensing this significant increase in adrenaline, cortisol. It's noticing that serotonin is lower, oxytocin is lower. So it believes, therefore, that this person's body is in danger. It believes that it's now time to turn certain components of the body off, just like a bear would do, in the wintertime. It starts to put your body into hibernation mode. So it's no wonder when you're in that state, of course you can't get out of bed. Everything about your body and mind is telling you to stay in bed. That's where it's safest. That's where you're going to heal, which of course is the opposite. So what we started working on it, and also I should state, this guy was on SSRIs. He was on antidepressants as well. And that, that's something that I had to be mindful of. I'm not a medical practitioner. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not trained to work with people that are on antidepressants. So I made sure that he informed his psychotherapist what he was doing with me. And within a couple of months, not only was he beginning to feel better, but he, in practicing his morning routine and various other things around breath work, positive psychology, he began to see a difference. And it didn't take long, to a point where the sessions that we had online, he was having from the sitting room. He wasn't in bed. He was feeling that much better about himself. He was still having lows, but as a percentage, he was able to get through his day. He was at a point where he was able to contemplate getting back to work. He is, by the way, now in a job again, acting as a consultant. His life is not 100% perfect, but it is much better than where it was before. And that's all just through doing really simple and sometimes minute changes to the routine, to how he shows up in the morning, his intention, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I think that's a powerful story and a possibility for others to consider. If you are in a state, you're just not happy with things, you're not happy with life at the moment, taking a look at that routine in the day is a great starting point. That is something that's actionable. And maybe it's just you add one thing, one decision you change. I've been practicing this coffee thing where you don't have coffee for 2 hours. That's something I've tried, and I started a long time ago. And that could just be one thing. And then just as you start to navigate these new decisions and, allotting time for this. Cause you showed this morning routine. And I think some people were like, oh, I don't have time for that.
Mm.
And, what do you tell someone who tells you they don't have time for crafting the ideal routine?
Well, I'm blunt. And I say, that's rubbish.
Mm.
Everybody's got time, wake earlier. If you just wake half an hour earlier, you can do all of that.
Yeah.
And I think the assumption is that all of that will take a long time, but it doesn't. The breath work doesn't have to be, an hour. It doesn't have to be half an hour. You can get some breath work practices done in 3 minutes, and it's going to work for you. The cold shower, you don't want to stay in there for too long. 3 or 4 minutes is perfect. The movement, that can take me, from anything from 4 to 5 minutes to 10, but quite often it's more for like 4 or 5 minutes. So when you break it down, all you really need is an extra half an hour. Everybody's got that. How much time do we waste in the morning?
Yeah.
When you think about it,
Well, another way to look at it too is how much time do you waste not being in a state of flow at work and having the constant distraction where you're having a distraction, you're trying to get back into work, you're on social media, you're doing these other things that in work that should take you 30 minutes to complete takes you 2 hours. I mean, the investment of 30 minutes makes the most sense. So you're in the state of flow because that's really what we're trying. And I think that's a good reminder for everyone. Why do you even do a morning routine? Yeah, it's going to optimize your energy, but you're going to be a lot more productive in flow. If you are in flow and you're in the right headspace, when you are with someone you love and you care about, you connect deeply. When you are in a great place mentally, when you have a meeting that you are a leader in, you can perform like you should and show up as a leader. The worst thing you can do as a leader is be living in survival mode and leading a group of people. Because survival mode is the scarcity mode. The scarcity mode is worried about finances or worried about some terrible thing that's going to happen. And a lot of it is a fictitious story of the mind to keep you protected, and that does the opposite. It is going to repel any great opportunities around you. Could you imagine? We all have been there. You're working with someone brand new, a new team member. Let's say maybe it's a new boss. And let's say they're a quote unquote jerk. Have you ever considered that they just may be living in a survival state? That's not really them, And we could tell a story, oh, that person's a jerk. I think a better thing for all of us to do when we're in public, we're in around people that in whether they're maybe a client, maybe there's a coworker, and let's say you want to have that story that they are a jerk. Just imagine themselves in their mind that they are living in this scarcity. They're living in this survival mode, and maybe that's not really them. Now, when you stay up from that perspective, you see someone in survival mode. What does it do for you? It goes, I've been in that mode too. I don't like that mode. What I hope this tells you is that you can see yourself and others when they are in survival mode because you have been there as well. And so that recognition, that acknowledgement of that other side of the equation. So let's stop labeling and judging people that they are jerks or buttholes or whatever frame you want to put around why they are doing what they're doing. Maybe it's the other side of you don't like.
Yeah.
And it's good to see that too.
Can I add to that actually, Robert, just to help justify this in people's minds? When you are in a survival state, when things have been going wrong for a while, your brain, remember, runs off of patterns. So when you're in that state, the brain then starts to look for what's wrong with the world rather than what's right. So when you come across these people and you say something and their first reaction is negative, let's say you've got a great idea and you're really wanting that person to get excited about it, but their first response is how that thing could go wrong. It's because where they are in their life, and it's not their fault. And this is how you justify it. You know, when you do come across these people, as you say, that are jerks, it's not going to be easy to do this all times. But if at some point in your mind you can think, okay, this person's not in a good place, because rationally, why would they respond that way? They don't want to be that person. It's because their brain has been programmed to think that way, to react that way. And it's doing that deliberately because it thinks by doing that, it's keeping that person safe from harm. So I think this is how you can justify it in your mind then.
Well, as a reminder, 9 o'clock on Sunday, please bring some friends. Please come with your Bluetooth headset, some water, some walking shoes, and a pile of energy so you can create your vision of your future right here in Nashville. Thanks for watching, and hope you guys have a fantastic week.